Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Monday Night Must See TV with the Hudson Valley Squares. We've got in the house tonight, we've got special guest once again, Mr. Martin Popoff. We've got Lynn, Versace, Sydney Taylor, Butch Jones again in the center square. Man, you are like a magnet in that center square.
He's a regular Paul Lynn.
Paul Lynn. Paul Williams on left. You know.
Ryan Scow, Chris Sallow, and Steve Keeler. So tonight,
Keeler. Steve Keeler.
It sounds more like the Penguin.
Yeah, I can't get it right. I haven't seen Paul Lynn in a long time.
I know, right? As long as you got the smile, that's all you need, right?
Yeah.
So tonight's topic, we've decided to move on to something that's going to involve a little more discussion. And I've been toying around with this idea. In fact, Martin and I talked about it maybe about a month or so ago, of these single lineup, one album wonders from very known bands. In other words, a band that we all know and love, who had that one record with that one strange lineup that only ever did that one album, and then that was it. And there's a bunch of these across multiple genres in the history of rock and roll. And I figured on this particular show with the Squares, it'd be kind of cool to talk about two of them, which are very well known to many. We've got 1979's Rainbow, Down to Earth, and we've got 1983's Black Sabbath, Born Again. All right, for those who are watching who maybe don't know, we've got Richie Blackmore has got in tow with him Cozy Powell, Don Airey, Roger Glover, and a guy named Graham Bonnet, who at the time was kind of an unknown, right? Over here, we've got, this is the band that kind of came together after Ronnie James Dio and Vinny Appice left Sabbath. We've got Geezer and Tony get together with Ian Gillan in a pub, getting completely hammered. And next thing you know, we've got the new lineup of Black Sabbath. Bill Ward comes back into the band, at least for the recording, doesn't make the tour. Bev Bevan fills in. A lot of interesting stories and things about both albums and the tours and all that sort of thing. But that was it from either band. Okay, so since she hasn't been here in a couple of weeks, Lynn Versace is going to kick us off tonight. And what are your opinions of these two albums, Lynn?
Well, I'm going to get crucified. I feel like I'm going to get crucified for this, but
not from me. I'm not saying a word.
Not even from you. I mean, I just mean from everybody in general, you know. Listen, Black Sabbath, Born Again, all my pothead friends would listen to this record at all the, you know, the beer parties and the trail parties and stuff like that. And, you know, it was great. It was, it brings Sabbath back to that, like a dark time. And it was great. And Ian Gillan, I mean, they're just great musicians. He's a great singer. The record wasn't for me, you know, and I know a lot of people love that record. Most of my friends love that record and they thought it was like the fucking holy grail, you know, of Black Sabbath. But for me, it just wasn't, it wasn't what everybody else thought it was. You know, you have the screaming guitar sound, you have the screaming vocals, and that's all great. But disturbing the priest, you know, like that scared the shit out of me. You know, like it just didn't just disturb priest, it disturbed me. Like I don't know. It just, like I said, it's a great song. And Bill Ward with his polyrhythms on drums, like it was great for what it is, you know, and he did some great drum work on it. But again, that record for me is not my favorite. Do I think that was a great super group? Hell yeah. Do I think they could have done more and they could have made better stuff? In my opinion, I think so. I think they should have made maybe one or two more records, but again, I wasn't the producer or anything on those albums. I don't know if that was the record.
What, you didn't produce it?
No, I didn't.
You didn't, Lynn, you didn't produce that one. I'm sorry.
No, not that one. A couple others, but not that one.
I wasn't the producer on that record.
I wasn't the producer on the record, and I wasn't at Butch. I missed you, Butchie. I missed you. Does everybody know I missed Butch?
We do now.
We do now.
Yes.
Oh, all right. Well, I did. I missed Butch. But Rainbow, Down to Earth, Cozy fucking Powell, like Butch says. I mean, you can't really get much better. And I don't know. For me, that record is just maybe because it was more. I don't want to say it's of a not sellout, but it was more
More commercial.
radio, airplay, commercial, poppy, whatever. I like to dance to it, right? Like every chick was dancing, including myself, on the dance floor. Just a bunch of those songs, I love you all night long, and since you've been gone, like those are the two hits that everyone was like, oh my God, myself included. I mean, I love those songs. I mean, it's the first post-Dio record, Graham Bonnet. To me, I think the guy's vocals are insane. I love his voice. I love his vocals. And I love Gillan's vocals. But again, it's apples and oranges. To me, you really can't compare. They're both great, but I just like Graham Bonnet's vocals better for me. Yeah, what am I going to say? The Danger Zone, right? It's a little heavier and a little more raw. And Lost in Hollywood's a little more raw, a little heavier for that record. Those are two great songs. Eyes of the World, the lyrics really hit home for me. No Time to Lose. I love his vocals on that one. And in Making Love. So for me, Down to Earth, Rainbow, that wins for me. Don't crucify me because I don't love the Born Again record, anyone.
Okay.
I like it. I just don't love it. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
We're going to get all sorts of different opinions on this one. That's fine.
I don't know. I really feel like everyone loves that Sabbath record. Like everyone I grew up with was like, had those shirts. And
There's a
first
lot
of
that
all,
don't.
Yeah, there are a lot that don't. There are
Yeah.
a lot that don't. And there's a
since-
lot of love for Down to Earth that I've heard.
I hope so. But
especially from the guy who's going to go next, Mr. Popoff. So I know he's a
yeah.
huge
Well,
fan
I
of
hope
that
he likes it. I hope he likes it better.
It's like Hollywood Squares. Are we gonna count squares for the wins on these? Who picks which
Well,
album?
we'll keep track. So we got one Down to Earth vote. So Martin, what do you got?
All right.
but-
I like Lynn's way of looking at this. You do one, you do the other, and say which one won. That's pretty cool. So I'll do that too. So, So starting with Born Again, I really like this record. I always liked this record, and of course, the sound was a little hard on your ears. You play it on different stereos, and it doesn't quite work. It's hard to hear what's going on. You've got two lead vocalists on this. You've got that sound the same. You've got Ian Gillan and you've got Tony's guitar solos, which both are screeching out of the speakers constantly, right? And just to prepare for this, I went through and I went back and listened to that great B-side that they didn't use on it, The Fallen.
Oh,
Yeah.
Which is really good. I mean, it's a
Should've
good
been on
song.
that
And
record.
it would have been fine in there.
Absolutely,
It's got
Chris.
three different
Absolutely.
parts. One thing, everybody go back and listen to The Fallen. I was blown
Yeah.
away by Tony's guitar solo on that. That is one of the greatest Tony guitar solos of all time. It's late in the track and it's long. And it's really, really cool and biting and rhythmic and strange. But and when I came up, I mean, I remember loving Disturbing the Priest, Trashed, and Zero the Hero most. And now I'm into like Digital Bitch and Hotline and Keep It Warm more so. Those are my favorite songs on it. And I was thinking today, they almost remind me of like Kick-Ass, Shout at the Devil, Motley Crue era songs. Those ones on side 2. And Born Again's pretty cool too. And then it's got the two little instrumental things. I wanted to read a little excerpt. So I did this book, called it Born Again. This is the Black Sabbath in the 80s and 90s book. And there was a guy named Pete Retzi who was in the car with Ian for the Trash story. And Pete is no longer with us. He was a Facebook friend and I interviewed him for this book. But he says, he goes, I'm Peter in the song, in the lyrics, because he's mentioned in the song, right? Begins Pete Retzi volunteering a full account of the shenanigans. We picked up a new car for Bill Ward that day, brand new, that he'd never even driven yet. It was a Ford. They make them here, but they're way better over there. I can't remember the name. The common one over here, but they're so nice over there. It's a 4-door, could cruise 100 miles an hour. No problem. They had V6s in them. Real nice car. Anyways, we're recording in the manor, and the front yard of the manor has a 9-hole golf course. By the way, just for background, of course, this is the story of Trash, the first song in the album, right? Which we know is about a car crash, right? So he goes, with this giant 10th century manor house built in the foreground of it, okay? And the lower quadrant borders on a canal, goes across the back of it. Across the canal is a church where the priest was disturbed, okay? But on the canal, Gillan went down and bought a rubber raft and a 25 horsepower Mercury outboard motor on the back of it, so he could ride down the canal, down to the pub, and then back safely, not going on the highway. So he goes, so I took Bill Ward's new car, drove it down to the pub. Ian took his boat, and I met him down there. We were sitting there drinking Bell Scotch and Coke. Cokes, and I looked, what is that bottle there behind the other two? And she had 2 bottles of Jose Cuervo Gold. And she goes, mate, that's been here for 30 years. She says, do you want it? I said, yes, we'll take 2. Thank you. So Ian and I drank 1 bottle of it at the pub with salt and lemons. And I got in the car and Ian got in the boat and I met him back at the manor. But I got there before he did. So I drove the car across the golf course and down. We had a go-kart track down at the bottom of the manor. I started doing laps, waiting for him to come down the canal. So when I'm out there flying around this track, several people at the house come out and start watching on the hill. They're all applauding, having a laugh. And Ian comes down. You know, he finally arrived. Drunken voice, yeah, let me try it. And I slide over, and we're in the right-hand drive vehicle now, okay? I slide over, and Ian jumps in the driver's seat, gets about 3/4 of the way around there, and gets off in the weeds, off exploring, quote from the song, right? Yep. Okay, and hits a piece of concrete as big as a Chevy van, and we flipped the car right over on its roof, okay? And the car skidded down on its roof, spinning around. And I'm trying to think of the verse right now. He says, the ground was in my sky. And we stopped short of going into an old abandoned Olympic-sized swimming pool. Got very lucky because if we would have gone in, the thing was filled with old tires and debris and stuff. We never would have been able to open the door for us to get out. We would have drowned probably.
Wow.
But anyway,
Crazy.
we're in the car. We went over the concrete. It tore. It broke the gas tank in half, and the gas tank is floating through the car. Ian's hanging upside down with his seatbelt on, which is stuck. I'm out of the car already. He's got a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. The gasoline runs down his body, soaks his leg, goes down, runs down his face, goes up the end of the cigarette and puts it out because it needs an open spark for the flame to ignite. It just snuffed it. But I thought the whole thing was going to go, man. But the thing is, if you took a cigarette and you poured gasoline on it while it was lit, the gasoline would soak the cigarette. When it hits the end of the cigarette, the hot coal, it goes out. It doesn't burst into flames. It smothers it. The gasoline had run down his face, down that cigarette, and put it out. Wow. That's a pretty crazy story. Eh?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a really
that is
crazy
crazy.
story.
Yeah, that's the full
Could have,
trash story.
like you said, it could have had a very tragic ending.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, I love this record. I mean, there are all these stories about the mix of it. And there was one story I saw about how Ian possibly blew out a couple tweeters in the monitor room, and that's why they weren't hearing it properly and blah, blah, blah. But then they go on tour and the mix stays the way, and they're horrified when they hear it. They're horrified when they see the album cover. So yeah, I like this album. Moving on to Down to Earth. So story of that is in this book, the Rainbow Book. There's my vinyl copy of it and a CD. And actually this weird Down to Earth rough mix of CD somebody made for me years ago, but now I think all this stuff is out anyways, right? But so this record, we did an episode of the Contrarians on it, and it's my favorite Rainbow record. I like it more than Rising.
Ouch!
I always like
Good
to
night.
remind people. I'll tell you, I always like to remind people that it's not that commercial. All night long, the verse, hang on. The chorus is commercial. The verse is not commercial. Just kind of like Long Live Rock and Roll. Since You've Been Gone is a cover, and it's the Big Heady song as well, right?
Yeah.
Russ Ballard, I think Russ Ballard, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty commercial. And then it's got Making Love, which is kind of a good, dark ballad, better than Rainbow Eyes. But the rest of the record, Eyes of the World, super heavy, old school, Long Live Rock and Roll Rainbow, No Time to Lose, kind of like a Sensitive to Light, awesome, heavy party Rainbow. Love's No Friend, big, heavy blues, Danger Zone, totally heavy with one of those great Gothic riffs, and Lost in Hollywood, hands down, the greatest Cozy Powell performance of all time, besides the beginning of Stargazer, and my favorite Rainbow song of all time, hands down. So many cool parts in that, including the Don Airy keyboards, the riff. I played a couple of live versions before I got on it, and they played it faster. There's a great Donington 1980 version with Graham, and then they play it even faster in 1981 in Boston with Joe Lynn Turner in the band. But I think Graham's a good match here. Obviously, he doesn't last. He sounds great. He looks great with that whole James Dean thing. Roger Glover wrote all the lyrics. Joe Graham's vocals were not put on until they got back from France and recorded his vocals at Kingdom Sound on Long Island, right? So that's where his vocals went on. But this was the kind of like the first and last time Graham was surprised by coming into a band and going, what, I'm supposed to write lyrics too? What's going on here? So by the time he gets to Michael Schenker, he learns how to write lyrics. And by the time he gets to Alcatraz, he's a great lyricist, right? So, he's not an airhead, put it that way, right? But it is kind of disconcerting that Roger is doing that here. And Roger's a little bit, he's a little concerned that Graham doesn't show a lot of interest in wanting to do lyrics. But yeah, and the production of it, I think it's the best produced album until you get maybe some of the Joe Lynn ones are a little analogy if you like the dad rock production thing, which of course I do. And that's fine. But this one's a little raw, a little more mid-rangey and urgent. And like I say, this is Cozy's best performance. Cozy is not a great grooving drummer. He's a big pounding drummer. And I think he grooves pretty nicely on this record. So this hands down is a 10 out of 10 for me. And I'd say Born Again is probably a 9 out of 10 or an 8.5. But yeah, I'll argue to the death that Down to Earth, just, there's enough songs on Long Live Rock and Roll that don't put it up there. It's pretty easy to beat out the Joe Lynn albums, and Rising, you can get a little, for me, it just gets a little bit old and trashy sounding. It's almost a little too raw, and it does have Do You Close Your Eyes, which ain't great, and Run with the Wolf, which maybe ain't great. People debate Rising, right? Say it's only got 4 good songs out of 6. And when you do the math, it's
Not
like, oh, that
even.
looks really bad, right? So so there you go. I really I don't think this record is all that commercial at all. I don't think it's any mellower than Long Live Rock and Roll, put it that way. And it's heavier. It's heavier than the debut, and it's heavier than every single Joe Lynn Turner album. So how commercial is that? So
Yay.
Oh, Straight
All
Between the Eyes, though.
What's
That
that?
just made
Straight
my
Between the
night.
Eyes is awesome. I don't think that's. I mean, it's.
Yeah,
It has
they're all
Stone
close.
Cold, but that's a pretty heavy record.
They're close, right? I mean, it's not as heavy as Rising, and you're right. Straight Between the Eyes is pretty heavy, and Difficult to Cure is fairly heavy too, right? And Long Live Rock and Roll. It's just not way more commercial than anything.
And I
else.
only said commercial because Lynn was trying to find the word, and I knew that's what she was looking for. 'cause of
Yeah,
those
I
two
mean, I don't
songs.
even
So
know if
that's
it was
the reason I said that.
commercial, but
I mean, I think though you can't really it's definitely, you can see though in that record that maybe it's not as commercial as Rainbow got, but it's definitely leaning that way.
Yeah,
You know?
and
it's
all
going
the
that way.
lyrics,
Yeah.
all the lyrics except
Yeah.
one or two are real world lyrics, right?
Yeah.
So
But that's right. That's what Richie
we're
wanted.
2 for 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just had 3 albums with Ronnie, and then you had Roger Glover write lyrics, so it's a big difference.
We're 2 for 2, Pete.
2 for 2. All right, Mr. Scow.
All right, you know what? I gave this one a lot of thought. I like this topic a lot. I like this idea. I hope we do more of this in the future. So I don't know, I do not own that Rainbow album. I like it, but I don't own it. But for me, first one I listened to was this, going back and refresh my memory. I listen to this all the time. I listen to Black Sabbath all the time because I fucking love Black Sabbath. But I mean, I've always heard a lot of, pro and con about the production, the murky sound. It kind of lacks a lot of the high end. I like that, but that's just personal taste. It's just kind of metal I like. Alternate. I've heard, never really bothered with alternate mixes with it because if they exist, I've just never really bothered because I just like how the actual album sounds. It's got 3 of the 4 original Sabbath guys and Ian, and I always thought it was kind of unusual because none of the stuff Ian really ever did was evil. Deep Purple was not an evil band, but so for him to come in on this album and have to sing lyrics about priests and Satan and stuff and this darker material, I thought it was fucking great. I thought he knocked it out of the park. It's probably my favorite thing he ever did after In Rock by Deep Purple. Obviously, nothing could be Child in Time. That's just beyond reproach. But if besides that one Deep Purple album, Born Again is probably my favorite Ian performance. Tony is out of this world. Great. Some of the heaviest, darkest stuff they ever did. I really like every Sabbath album. But after this album, they never really did anything other than Dehumanizer. That's kind of an unusual thing. But other than that, they never really were an evil band again. They played good, solid 80s heavy metal, Hellas Cross, for Tear, great albums, but they're never really dark and evil. And Born Again to me it's just disturbing the priest. That's one of the darkest songs they ever wrote, other than like the song Black Sabbath. Like they were always like they had that reputation as being an evil band, but some songs really come to mind. And that one, obviously Zero the Hero was great. Hotline, I was listening to that today. I'm like, man, this is a fantastic, fantastic freaking song. And I don't know, when it comes to that Rainbow album, just the way I got into music, the way I got into I bought Rising when I was pretty young because I loved Holy Diver, I loved Heaven and Hell, I loved Mob Rule. So I'm like, well, Dio. So I started listening to the Rainbow. I heard them last of all of his solo stuff and Sabbath. I got into Rainbow last. I loved Rising. I loved the Long Live Rock and Roll. And I didn't listen to anything after that for quite a while. And then I actually heard Since You've Been Gone. Somebody played it, and I'm like, this is a Rainbow song. Obviously, it's a cover. It's a Russ Ballard cover. But I'm like, I thought it was like fucking REO Speedwagon or Foreigner. And I'll admit, I'm really not much of an AOR fan. It's just, if you love it, you love it. There's some good bands, there's some good songs, but it's not stuff I listen to. And I'm like, there's no fucking way this is Rainbow. But it is Rainbow. Okay. But like Martin said, though, if you take that song out of the mix, that album has some really good tracks, like Lost in Hollywood, amazing track. Eyes of the World, great. Like that sounds like older Rainbow to me. It's kind of almost like Rising. It's like a lot heavier, a little more ornate, a little more. Trying to think of the word here, just like more bombastic, I guess. And All Night Long is more of a radio track, but that is a great song too. So Rising will always be my favorite. The Dio stuff will always be my favorite, but that's because I had so many years invested listening to those before I came over. Graham, I don't know if anybody's going to agree or disagree. He was actually my least favorite Rainbow vocalist. Dio's obviously number one. I'm not a huge fan of the Joel and Turner albums, but I think he was a great singer. Always was a great singer. And I thought he killed it on a lot of those albums. And Graham's a great singer, but I don't know. He didn't have as much distinct personality to me as the other two guys. He's just like very competent, very good, hits the notes, really nails it. But if you name 100 other like good 80s vocalists, he just kind of like sits in the middle of the crowd. He doesn't stand out. Like that's Bruce Dickinson or that's Rob Halford. And
Wow.
He's never struck me that way.
100 other 80s singers. Wow.
I know, but he's good, but that's all I can say. Yeah, he's good. He definitely.
Ryan, I got to ask you, do you like him better in Schenker and Alcatraz than you do in Rainbow, or is it just him in general?
The Schenker album is definitely my favorite that he did, but that's probably my favorite album of the three. So I don't know if that kind of influences decision. And I heard that earlier too, so I was already like really into that album. And then I heard I've known the Rainbow album for years now. I'll probably go buy it after this because I was listening to it all today. I'm like, yeah, this has some really freaking good songs on it. It's just one of those things. I'm like, I heard it, over and over again. People play it at parties and stuff. I'm like, that's cool, but I just never really wanted to hunt it down. And I'd always end up just listening to Rising. But so I'm gonna go with Born Again as my choice because that's just what I had the most invested in, and I love that album too. But the Rainbow album, it's really good. It's I can't take nothing away from it. I just kind of, when I picked Born Again, I'm like, all right, now I got to kind of talk some shit on the Rainbow album to kind of like justify it. I'm like, no, it's actually a really good, other than that cover, which I think is stupid as shit. I don't like it, but that's it. It's an easy song to skip. So, and Born Again has those two little instrumental tracks, so we can skip those too. So one's got two skippable songs, one's got one skippable song for me. So, even though they're not really songs, I guess the math kind of works out there. But yeah, I'm going with Sabbath on this one.
All right, 2-1.
Wow.
Favor of Rainbow. Butch, our center square. What do you got?
Well, I should have worn my shirt this week instead of a couple of weeks ago because it has to be Cozy fucking Powell. That's just for no other reason than it's cozy. So that wins by default. But like Ryan was saying, I had this. My mom got me this for Christmas in 1983. So I've had this way longer for sure.
Wait a second.
Or 82?
Your mother
83.
Actually
That's
bought
right.
you that
With
album.
that cover.
Oh,
That cover.
dude, we could have a show on just my mom.
Yeah.
You don't understand.
My mother, when I came home with that album, and then a couple months later came back from the show with that on his shirt, she almost had a coronary.
No.
My mom would have had an exorcism in my house.
My mom,
No.
I remember I think I asked for this album, Grand Prix Samurai, which she couldn't
What a
find.
killer.
And there was something else I asked for Christmas, and I got this. So I was
Oh.
happy.
Very
Christmas.
God bless your mom, man.
My mom is the greatest. My
Your mom's the
mom,
greatest.
she didn't want me to miss out on anything. Hey, listen, you get to reap the rewards of being an only child with a divorced parent. So you add those things together, it's like, okay, honey, No problem.
Yeah,
You
and
wanna-
now you take care of her and you make her drink beer. Poor woman.
I don't make her drink beer. She drinks
Yes, you
water
do.
with a little hint of beer in it twice a year. And then I take pictures and post them on Facebook because she's drunk. she my mom is a tough person, but she gave me an awesome childhood. I kid you not, man. But no, she did give me that for Christmas. But I had this way before I
Put it
got down to
down.
earth.
Show it off, man. Show it off.
SCTV reference, Dr. Tongue. But no, let me go back to this. So the production, like everyone says, the production of this, I think, is awful. For a band like Sabbath to let an album come out that doesn't sound very good, honestly. So I think the songs are fine. If the production was better, it would be a stellar record. But for me, the production kind of ruins the enjoyment of it. Not that I don't enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. It's not like that I don't enjoy it, but it doesn't sound good. So that bothers me every time I listen to it. It doesn't sound great to me. But Zero to Hero is an amazing song and one of my favorite bands of all time that I love talking about because no one seems to remember this band. And Martin, I hope that you do. I talk about them all the time in my self-plug on the Butcher Shop thing. I talk about the band that was from Germany called Thunderhead. The singer is from New Haven, Connecticut, and the band is from Germany. So he moved to Germany and ended up having this band. But they do a phenomenal cover of Zero the Hero, which I'll post this week in the Butcher Shop. I started doing, I think I'm doing cover tune Sundays. So I'll post it next Sunday on there. But I love Born Again. I think it's really cool. I think that they should have done another record with Ian Gillan. I think it would have.
Yes.
Even if it was the same production, it would have been cool. I mean, Ian Gillan was a legend on his own, and Sabbath were a legend.
Right.
So to put them together, they deserve more than
Right.
a record.
Right,
The
agreed.
Rainbow thing with Bonnet, I've loved Graham Bonnet. I guess I came in really with Bonnet with Schenker, because the Assault Attack is easily my favorite Michael Schenker record, and I've praised Graham Bonnet since 1982 when it came out. I love that record to death. And I was just thinking, Martin, when you showed your album, I met Graham a couple of years ago, and I've become friends with him through his girlfriend. Beth and me have become like instant friends, bass player in the Graham Bonnet band. And I brought a bunch of albums for him to sign. And I brought the Assault Attack, of course, and I brought the Alcatraz records. And I didn't bring, I don't even know why I didn't even think of it. I didn't bring this from the sign, but the other ones mean more to me. But and this battle right here, it's definitely down to earth for me. I love the songs. Cozy Powell being involved in it is a huge thing for me. And it's fucking Richie Blackmore. I mean, Blackmore is still Blackmore then. It's a great record. No, you know what? I think it's a very good record. I don't know if I would say it's a great record. I think it's a very good record. There's some songs on it that would always seek out to play, but like Martin was saying, for me, this doesn't even stand a chance between with Rising in particular. There's no. I would never. If I had to pick one or the other, and that's the only Rainbow album I ever listened to for the rest of my life, is before you even finish the question. Is Rising. There's no comparison.
There you
And
go.
We know that.
And I know a lot of people slag the two other songs saying that they're throwaways on. I honestly, I like Do You Close Your Eyes and I love Run with the Wolf. So to me, it's basically a perfect record. Rising, but we're not talking about Rising. But
No,
yeah,
we're not.
between these two, I'll take Down to Earth with Graham Bonnet and Blackmore and Cozy fucking Powell.
I got to be honest.
Yay, 3-1.
I don't want to sidetrack, but until this conversation, I've never heard anybody slag "Run with the Wolf." That's a great song. I've never heard a single thing.
I've always heard people say it was one of the throwaway songs. And do you Close Your Eyes? And I
And
love them both.
Starstruck, all three of those get kind of cycled around as the throwaways, right?
I saw someone just the other day. that
Starstruck?
said- yeah, I've
Sometimes.
been seeing a lot of it lately.
Yeah.
Someone the other day, I don't know where I saw it, said that Rising is overrated, and the only reason people say it's so great is because of that one song, right? Starlight.
Send me
I mean-
the link.
And
Ooh.
Ronnie didn't like Light in the Black either.
Oh, I like that one.
Stargazer and Light in the Black, they go together. It's like 1, 2.
Yeah, Ronnie just thought there wasn't enough singing in it. There was too much. One other point I just wanted to make so I don't forget. Graham Bonnet and Ronnie James Dio, and I guess you can add Bruce Dickinson to this too, are the only 3 vocalists I can think of who have 3 of the greatest heavy metal albums of all time with 3 different bands. I mean, I'm saying that because I think Down to Earth is one of the greatest albums of all time, but most people wouldn't say that, I suppose. But what I like about Graham is he's probably on the greatest Michael Schenker album, and the Alcatraz album is amazing.
Yep.
And at least I think this is the greatest Rainbow album. So, and just one last point. I mean, in terms of greatest Rainbow songs of all time, for me, Lost in Hollywood, #1, miles away from everything else. But I'd put Danger Zone and Eyes of the World up against anything else, which would be Stargazer, Light in the Black, and probably Gates of Babylon.
I love Kill the King. Gates of Babylon.
Yeah, Kill the King.
It's a Babel.
Gates of Babylon is my favorite fucking song ever. I love that song.
Ryan, the problem with long.
Wait, how is it your favorite song? The whole thing with Sleep with the Devil? Doesn't that freak
I
you
just
out,
love
Lynn?
Gates of Babylon. I can't help
You're
it. I
so
love
fucking
it.
worried about all the satanic shit, and you listen to
I'm not
that
worried
song.
about it. I like Ronnie James Dio.
Wash yourself with
I love
holy
the
water when you
song.
get the chance.
I have one point to make
What did I
also.
tell you? I
Lynn
love
is a-
that song.
Lynn's a huge Merciful Fate and King Diamond fan. How you scared of Born Again?
Really?
She is not.
Yes.
It's
Oh
not?
my God.
I thought you were
All
a
right,
big King
Peter
Diamond
Brady.
fan.
I'm gonna.
Okay,
he-
Peter
he-
Brady.
Don't even
Star
get me
Trek.
started.
Straight up Satanist. Yeah, King loves himself some Satan. It's
But I have two things. I have 2 things I have to say.
I can't.
So Martin, I have to go back to you with that statement. So what 3 albums is Bruce Dickinson's 3?
I want to
Chemical
know.
Wedding, Samson Shock Tactics, and Pick a Maiden album, Peace of Mind. Say.
Okay, I agree with that.
And what you say, Chemical Wedding?
Yeah,
And Samson Shock
that's
Tactics.
my favorite.
The
Accident
third
of Birth, I
Samson's
think,
amazing.
slide in
I
there.
think that's Bruce's greatest album in terms of a vocal performance. Bruce is a maniac.
See, no, you
Across
know what?
Samson
I'll
Shock
tell you.
Tactics.
See, now I'll say what I think Bruce's best vocal performance is, and Pete knows this is coming, is the album that nobody besides me, it seems like, gives him any credit, is the album Skunk Works.
Yeah, great album. Yeah.
I think he sings his ass because he's not trying to be a metal guy. He's just singing for the sake of singing.
He is good on that album.
Oh
But
my
I'm with
God.
Martin. Chemical Wedding is definitely my favorite. I love that.
Really?
Book of
Yeah.
Hell, the Tower, Jerusalem.
Oh. And I had a question for
Off
somebody
on a
else.
tangent right now.
It was for you, Ryan, and I forgot what it was now.
Actually, I wanted to piggyback on what you said. Cozy Powell on that Rainbow album is a fucking monster. I might agree that it might be the best thing he ever did, or at least tied with Rising. I don't know. And when it comes to, I didn't mention this, but when it comes to Born Again, when you bring the early Sabbath stuff in, Bill Ward is in another dimension. Like his playing's very jazzy. It's very unique.
Very 60s.
He sounded like nobody else in the world on those first couple of Sabbath albums. And I know there was like literal dump trucks full of cocaine and probably other stuff. But by the time he got to the 80s albums, he was just a good, solid rock drummer. But there's nothing on Born Again that's like the drum performance doesn't really catch your ears. He's just solid,
sure.
keeps the beat. But it's not like on the early stuff where it's like, what the fuck is he doing? He's like just in another world.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
I don't want to slag the guy for that, but it's worth bringing up.
No, I know.
He was
I
in
agree.
tough shape at the time.
I agree. And I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
All right,
I'm done.
Sydney.
All right, man. There's been a lot that's been said already.
Martin's making me drink again. So just if anyone
Oh,
is
yeah.
wondering, this
Oh,
is
yeah,
the
he's
third
making
one
me
now.
drink.
But I'm drinking. Oh, I can't get this. Someone send me some lights because this sucks. I can't get this right. Colonel Taylor, Colonel Taylor. So I'm sorry, Sydney. I just have to pour the last that's left of my
Hey,
Colonel
Butch,
Taylor.
why is it every week that every bottle that you have is like almost empty?
Well,
He's an alcoholic.
A rough week.
because I drink
guess
daily,
so,
but I'm
too.
never drunk. That's the thing. I've seen comments in the past. He's fucking drunk all the time. You will never see me drunk.
Really?
Lynn, when have you seen me? When was the last time you
Oh,
saw
I've
me
never
drunk?
seen you. I've never seen you drunk.
1980 what?
Oh, you're full of shit.
You haven't seen me drunk in 20 years.
Okay.
Exactly. You have
Okay.
not. Sorry, Sydney. I like to drink. And Martin's got me upset about the Cozy Pal comment. So I have to drink. It's Martin's fault.
I'm gonna drink too because Chris Allo said something about Satan, and Black Sabbath is my favorite songs too. So
Sleep with the devil. And then
Think
you
about it,
listen-
Lynn. Think about it. Might be time to repent. I'm just saying.
oh fuck, dude, I do bad shit all the time and repent an hour
Oh,
later.
I bet
so
you do. I
Oh,
bet
You have
do.
no idea.
All those good.
Oh, I have an idea. Trust me.
I have an idea.
Yeah, well, you would know.
Yeah, want me to zip it?
Yeah,
all
please.
those Christian Merciful Fate songs.
All right.
sorry,
I think
Sid.
I know where Cindy's going to go on this.
Yeah, probably. But I mean, this was difficult for me because, to be quite honest with you, neither of these albums are albums that I really love. I'm just being blatantly honest.
I'm with you.
I don't gravitate.
No rumors, that's for sure.
Shut
Had
up,
to be
Chris.
said. Had to be said, Chris.
I just don't gravitate towards listening to these albums all the time. If I listen to them every once in a while, that's okay with me, but I'm not like, oh my God, I have to throw on Born Again or Down to Earth. It's just not me. But I mean, an interesting thing about Born Again, and we were actually talking about the cover that I wanted to say, was that the artist who did the album cover for that was actually kind of in a way trying to sabotage Black Sabbath by doing it. Because at the time he was working with Ozzy, and Don Arden was trying to basically take everybody from kind of Ozzy's camp to try to work with Black Sabbath. Because, you know, when Ozzy left, got fired, you know, it was this huge thing, you know, we have to make Black Sabbath bigger, right? And so he actually was trying to not break his ties with Ozzy at the time and put together this really what he thought was a terrible album cover, just so he could get a couple bucks. And to his surprise, Black Sabbath Don Arden actually loved it, and you know, the band wasn't a fan, but he was trying to sabotage the band with the album cover. So I thought that was pretty funny, questionable, but
Sharon's father.
yeah, I mean, well, he was trying to steal everybody from Ozzy, and the guy was like, well, I don't want to break my ties with Ozzy, so let's try to put together a really crappy album cover. And I mean,
Nice.
some people think it is, some people don't. So
It's Crush Your
I think
Jewel
it is
from
a crappy-
Kerrang
I-
magazine, right?
I think it's a crap
Steve Jewell or whatever. I thought that was interesting because I was doing a little bit of research and stuff when I was preparing for this. But I mean, with that album, you know, I know that we've mentioned a bunch of times, the production's just not very good. It's very hard sometimes to listen to, I think, just because I feel like it's like just a lot coming at you all at once, which sometimes I like, but sometimes I don't. And so I think with that album, it's just kind of like just a constant like barrage the entire time of like, can't really make out, you know, it's almost like Iommi's guitars and Gillan's vocals are like on the same level in the mix, and it's just like a lot at one time. And also, I mean, to me, in a way, that album just strayed a little too far from what I feel like I love Black Sabbath as. I feel like some spaces in that album, it's very deep purplish in a way. I mean, obviously still Black Sabbath, but I feel like sometimes when I'm listening to it, I can't get past the fact that it's Ian and it sounds a lot like Deep Purple because it's Ian and it came from this really big established band. And I guess you could say the same for Dio, but I feel like, you know, Dio was kind of coming to a band at that time that was really even a little bit more massive than where he had come before. So, I mean, it's just not my favorite album. I don't hate it, but it's just really not for me. But also, I mean, Down to Earth, like I said, is just not like my favorite. I mean, I'm probably going to have the most unpopular opinion of all when it comes to my favorite era of Rainbow. And that's, I love Joe Lynn Turner. The Joe Lynn Turner era stuff is my favorite. I love the stuff with Dio, but I love Joe Lynn Turner more when it comes to Rainbow. So, I mean, this is not my favorite era of the band either. I like Graham Bonnet. Kind of like Ryan was saying, I don't have anything against him. He's just not one of my all-time favorite vocalists. He's just kind of, I listen to him and it's just like, okay, I think he's great. I think he hits the notes great. I think he does a great job. I mean, you can listen to it and I think you can tell it's Graham Bonnet when you're listening to him singing. That's not a question for me, but it's not like, oh man, I have to listen to Graham Bonnet right now. That's just never, this has never been me. But I mean, I think that there are a couple standout tracks, you know, Lost in Hollywood, like many have said, has always kind of been a big one for me. Eyes Through You is great. And like I said before, I mean, it's not maybe as commercial as they got with Jill and Turner, but I mean, I think that it was definitely leaning that way. And I wonder sometimes that if Graham stayed in the band, if maybe we would have seen that even further, you know, if he was on for another record, would we have seen him get as commercial as they did with Jill and Turner? You know, it's kind of one of those things where they didn't really have the chance because Graham Bonnet left the band. So it's like, I don't really know if that would have continued or if they would have stayed a little bit heavier. But yeah, I mean, I probably have to go with Down to Earth on this one, just because I do find myself listening to that album a little bit more than I do Born Again. But just neither of them are really like up there for me. So there you go.
Before we go any
4-1.
we should do a poll. Who actually likes the cover of Born Again? Because it always comes up in conversation.
I love the cover.
I like the
I don't
cover.
mind
I
it.
mean,
I love
the
it.
name of the album's Born Again. What's more fitting than a fucking baby?
I'm right there with you, Chris. I should have got my
Baby with horns.
I mean, I know the guy stole
Yeah,
it from,
hog oil
a
baby.
photo of a baby
Yeah, and he
from
added
some
the
baby
horn.
magazine. And Depeche Mode has the same artwork on one of their albums, but
Yes.
if you're naming an album Born Again, you should have a baby or something related to infants, I would think.
I agree with you. I should have dragged my shirt out too. I should have.
I don't
And
know
didn't think
if
it would
I-
wear mine. We got a couple.
I don't like it.
I don't know if I'm on board with that. I mean, I get what you're saying, but as I'm looking at it, I mean,
I think this is a much lamer album cover, although the whole title is obviously a dig at Ronnie James Dio, but I think that
Wait a
I
minute.
would much
How
rather
did it-
wear a shirt with a devil baby and have my mom be pissed off at me and piss off Pete's mom
how
than
is
to
that
wear
a dig at Ronnie
than
James
to wear a
Dio?
rainbow.
So you're
How is
saying-
that a thing?
Wait, back up. How is that a dig at Ronnie James Dio?
Because he wanted the whole thing was to get down to earth, get away from dragons and demons and castles and all that shit. This is Richie Blackmore taking Rainbow in a more commercial direction, like everybody has said.
Yeah. Also, I forgot to
know about
mention.
Well, I never thought of that. Kind
I
of
wouldn't have
makes
put
sense.
that together.
I
I
never
think-
thought of that. That's a good.
think-
I mean, every song is about a chick or a relationship or.
That's what I was gonna
Something.
say. On that record, you can really see. I mean, that's another thing is that I feel like Roger's just lyrics on that are not super strong. I feel like that if maybe they were just a little bit more, I don't want to say like mature, but like a little more mature, I feel like it would have catered a little bit towards the older or like the original Rainbow fans if they lost a couple of them because of the commercial thing. I just feel like it's just all like if you listen to the lyrics of like Making Love, it's like okay, like it's just like the same thing like over
Oh,
yeah,
over and
yeah.
over again.
I
It's a
like
big
that.
I
loss,
agree with you.
but
Chris,
I
I'm
don't
gonna
know.
say though, Tara Woman, that's about a lady. Lady of the Lake, that's about a lady.
Exactly right, but I mean,
They're witches,
It's a little
though.
bit- it's a
Exotic.
little bit
Yes.
different. It's like it seems deeper in a way almost. I don't know.
I get you. I'm just fucking around. I get you.
I mean, Sydney, what you were saying before, I think is absolutely 1,000% true. I mean, the whole Blackmore's band. Blackmore did what Eddie Van Halen ended up doing later on, a few years later. Blackmore wanted to go commercial. So he lost Ronnie. So when you lose Ronnie, okay, now I can go more commercial. And you have Bonnet, and this is still a heavy record. And then Bonnet's gone. And then you have then you have Difficult to Cure. And that's still rocking, but you got a new singer that he can control. And then you go to Straight Between the Eyes, which to me is better than Difficult to Cure. And I love that. I love that record because Death Alley Driver is probably my favorite Blackmore solo of all time.
That's a good one.
That's a great song.
But then
Yeah,
after
yeah.
that, they really become commercial.
Yeah.
So it's Blackmore and the progression of saying, okay, I want to go over here. I want to make money. Fuck you. I'm doing this. And he did it. When I heard Street of Dreams, I was like, what the fuck is this?
I didn't know that was a Rainbow song either, Butch. I had the same thing.
You're like, wait, you see
Not
the
with
video,
Chicago or something, right?
I see
it
the
was-
video,
it was
like there's
well documented.
Blackmore. So it's like it was a conscious thing for him to go that direction. And like I said, and then Eddie did the same thing when Roth was gone. I mean, even in 1984, he was getting more commercial because he wanted to have that #1 song. He had done everything else. And then as they progressed, and he got his #1 song, and they got commercial, and he did what he wanted to do. They wanted to become songwriters. They were both guitar heroes, guitar gods. They just wanted to have that. Honestly, they wanted to have that financial success.
Who
They
does?
love the hits.
And-
I mean,
And they did.
it's
not
been well
bad. I
documented
mean, I
that
like-
Richie was
Yeah.
a big fan of Bad Company and Foreigner, and he liked that
Yeah.
kind of music,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's the way he was leaning
Yeah.
towards. So, yeah.
Which I
I'll
mean,
just
it's-
answer in the earlier
say I
question about
blame-
that album cover. I think the text on Born Again looks fine, and the baby concept is fine, but the colors are horrible, and the way they just take that yellow and stick it on the fingernails, right?
And the fangs.
To me, I look at those colors, and that's what the record sounds like. It's produced like those colors.
Yeah,
Good
college
point.
shit.
I like that. That's a good idea. I'm never gonna be able to shake that now. It's like, yeah, it's very.
Yeah.
I like that production, but it's very jarring and
Do
it's
you
muddy.
really?
I do.
I
but
don't
you
like
know
that
what?
production.
I like that kind of stuff.
I
It's just
love
like
that.
It's just
like,
muddy. That's my thing. It's just muddy. There's no treble
is.
to it at all.
Distortion.
I'm not gonna
Yeah,
argue.
it's a
Huge,
lot.
huge toms. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah, it's
a
crazy.
lot at one time. It's like not
It is.
leveled out.
It's very abrasive. That's for sure. You
Yeah.
can't
It
argue
definitely
with
is.
it.
Definitely.
It definitely sounds like that.
Steve, how about you?
Bang. It's my turn. All right. So got this homework assignment last week and Rainbow Down to Earth. Wow. Listened to this album a ton when it came out, but I'm gonna be honest, I haven't listened to this album in probably about 20 years.
Wow.
I've heard it, some of the songs, but I tell you, I was really let down when this album came out, as much as I did like it, because Dio was gone. And I do like Graham Bonnet, and Butch knows that. And I thought it was a letdown. I'm going back in time now. I'm not thinking about this in 2021. And this came out, and I still remember like that album, and I liked it a lot more then than I do now. Unfortunately, I had to really listen to it this week, and I listened to it yesterday. I listened to the whole album like 3 times, and I'm picking up Lost in Hollywood. I love that song. I agree with what Martin said, relating some of those songs with other Rainbow songs, and Danger Zone, All Night Long. If I never hear the Russ Ballad cover again, I'm good. I'm really played out on that one. But I still remember listening to that song, Eyes of the World, when that album came out. It was a hazy, like humid August morning. I was driving up Route 84 to that famous Pocono Downs jam. And I still remember like the time period and how when you listen to an album you hadn't listened to in a long time, it brings you back to moments that you remember, like listening to songs and stuff like that. But my opinion, Born Again, I still listen to this album a lot. In fact, we had a 4th of July bash at my house, a little one, a toned down one this year. And that was an album we were putting on out back while we were drinking. And I don't know. It's just one of the heaviest and evil albums from Black Sabbath. And it showcases the mighty Ian Gillan doing more of a metal thing than we've ever heard him try doing before. And maybe you guys don't like production. It doesn't bother me. I really like the whole album. I love that. When this came out, I mean, I loved it from the day one. I got to see the tour at Meadowlands. I think Pete was there too, right, Pete?
Yep, I was there.
And I mean, starting off with thrash, and I love how Martin told the story behind it, because without even knowing the story, I'm a racing fan. So, talking about racing at Brands Hatch and like trashing your car and everything else just starts out. And I'm going to totally disagree with Scal, how I'm not going to skip any songs in this album, because if I skip Stonehenge, then how am I going to have the intro to Disturbing the Priest? I don't just listen to certain songs on the
All
record.
right, I'm going to give you that. I'll give you that. It's a valid
The same
point.
thing. It's like it's got those 2 atmospheric, like dooming, like ominous instrumental songs that one leads. Stonehenge, of course, leads into Disturbing the Priest,
Steve,
and
you know what?
the Dark
Steve.
leads into. Well, I don't care about the dog licking your head right now.
No, I'm
It's
talking about-
stealing my
I heard-
thunder. I've been waiting an hour to talk, and now the stupid dog's licking your head.
Don't interrupt my dog. No, I heard this joke years ago. Speaking of those songs you don't skip, someone's like, you know what? When you die and you go to hell, you find out the band that plays is Black Sabbath, and you're like, fuck yeah. And they're like, but it's only the instrumental tracks.
Well, anyhow, and then the Dark leads into the hypnotizingly groovy Zero, the Hero, and of course, Digital Bitch is a real rouser. That's a real heavy
I like Digital
fast
Bitch.
track. I love that song, and I agree with Martin. Those last 3 songs on that album are all hidden gems, and I don't give a damn about the production. I think that's a classic album, and I would have loved to see Gillan do another one, but Gillan, self-proclaimed, said he didn't like singing these songs. He couldn't relate with them because they were very like satanic. It wasn't stuff he usually does. And I don't know. I'm going with Black Sabbath, Born Again on a landslide with this one. No offense to Ian Gillan and Cozy Pal. And Butch, me and you always got to disagree a little bit, but we can both pick on Lynn sometimes. So
Oh, gee, thanks. I
Well, there you go.
appreciate that.
sometimes I help
No
Lynn
problem
pick
with
on
that.
you.
Thanks, Stephen. I appreciate that.
Oh, it's nice to see
4
you.
to 2. So it's 4 to 2, still in favor of Rainbow. All right, Mr. Allo.
Just let me add one more trivia thing before I forget. Tracy Guns told me that he wrote the riff that turned into Paradise City, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Which is all taken from Zero the Hero, right?
Wow.
So Zero the Hero is the riff that those guys had in mind. When you think
But
of that,
without
you think
Zero
of
the
it.
Hero, we would have never had Paradise City.
There you go.
I'm
Oh,
sure
shit.
Pete.
When you put it like that, Steve,
Really? I mean, now that you said that, I instantly hear it, but I would have never thought that.
Yeah, I remember sitting on the bus with LA Guns, and he's telling me the whole story of this whole thing. We loved that song, and I wrote Paradise City, and it led into
Wow.
So
Pretty cool. All right,
Interesting.
Chris.
I still remember.
I'll make this quick.
I still remember that show at the Meadowlands Arena, Pete, and I was it was a hockey game. I would have been right behind the center net, all the way in the top, and it was just like a sea of heaviness. And I tell you what, Quiet Riot. I was a big fan of Quiet Riot before I went that night, and Quiet Riot were getting booed off stage, even though they were popular, because back then nobody wanted to open up for Black Sabbath.
Oh,
It was
yeah,
just
that's right.
Sabbath, Sabbath.
Except for Van Halen.
Oh yeah, you got a great point there. They didn't bring Van Halen back with them anymore after that. Yes.
Steve, what year was that show?
83.
That was
probably?
October 30th, 1983, if I remember
Oh, cool.
right.
All right, Chris, it's all yours.
Chris, I've been waiting for this. I'm strapped in. Let it rip.
I'm going to make it real quick because we're already an hour in.
Take your time.
I really
Don't be
like.
gentle about it. Don't be gentle.
I really like Down to Earth. It's not my favorite Rainbow record, but I think it's a really good record. I don't think it's a great record. I don't like it as much as the Ronnie era, but I think it's pretty good. A lot of the tracks are really good. I'm not going to bore everybody and go over it, but I really do like Born Again. It's one of my favorite Sabbath records. I may have never listened to Rumors, but I have bought Born Again 6 times, and I do really enjoy it. This is the original. I have the tape and the album. I wasn't digging those up, but this is the original German CD from the 80s. This is the 1996 Castle CD remaster. These are the unmixed demo version of the album. And this is the double digipack from a couple of years ago with the live tracks and the fall and bonus track. And yeah, I think it's a great record. Yeah, the production, everybody talked about it being kind of shitty, but I didn't know any better when I got the record, and I loved it. I loved the way it sounded. I loved Ian Gillan's screaming vocals. I'm not the Deep Purple fan that Pete is, but to me, this is my favorite thing I've ever heard Ian Gillan do. And I 100% agree with Ryan. As much as I love everything Sabbath has done, they absolutely, after this record, lost a step of that darkness and evilness that, maybe they regained a little bit with Ronnie James Dio in 92, but not really, because, but I think it's a fucking killer, crushing record. I know Butch mentioned a cover. Cannibal Corpse famously covered this in the early 90s. I know when I interviewed Ian Gillan for his Gillan's In record, he covered Trashed, and it was Ian Gillan, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Ian Pace on drums.
Oh shit!
So
Really?
luckily, since he included that, I got to ask him quite a bit about Born Again, and he absolutely loved his time in Sabbath.
Oh,
He told me that was his. Good.
I gotta. Now you just said that. So with that version with Ian Pace, which version do you like better of Trash? Of that?
Oh, I still prefer the original. I mean,
Yeah?
Ian Pace. Everybody does a great
good.
job.
Yeah.
But the original you can't touch.
Oh, I gotta find. I've never heard.
But
that.
it's definitely worthwhile to listen to for sure. And yeah, Ian Gillan wanted to for that record, he wanted to pay homage to his entire career. So that was the Sabbath track he picked, and he's still very close with Tony Iommi. But he told me he loved his year in Sabbath. He told me it was one of the greatest years of his life. And he just had a blast. I mean, nobody's mentioned, I know, Pete, the question was, should these bands have continued? or these lineups continued.
I see.
But Ian Gillan left to rejoin Deep Purple.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no stopping him to going back to Purple. Although, and I know, I did think, well, I've read, well, I guess all three. He's probably got more books on Deep Purple that Martin's done, but I know he's got that trilogy. And in one of them, he talks about how Deep Purple management, when they first came up with the idea for Purple to get a version of Purple back together, it blew my mind. It's in Martin's book that they didn't know which version they should get back together, whether it should be Mark II or Mark III. So maybe in an alternate universe, the Purple management got the Mark III version back together. So then maybe Ian Gillan would have been free to stick around and do more with Sabbath. That would have been great. But that was definitely not going to happen with Purple. And obviously it was the right career choice because pretty much for the most part, Ian Gillan's been there other than that one album with Joel and Turner. And for Graham Bonnet, it's all Butch Jones's buddy's fault, Cozy Powell, because Cozy Powell quit. So once Cozy Powell quit, that's why Graham Bonnet left. He's like, well, if Cozy's out, I'm out. But now in recent years, Graham Bonnet has sort of said in the press, geez, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. Maybe I should have stuck around, which, because, I mean, he did great stuff with Schenker and Alcatraz. But, I guess pulling your dick out on stage with Michael Schenker probably is not a good idea, career-wise.
Well,
so that
depending on what it looks like.
That kind of ended that association. But yeah, anyway, I digress. I love Born Again. I don't care what anybody says. I know it's no rumors. And it's not Born in the USA or Thriller, but I fucking love it. It's heavy as fuck. And I will gladly buy some bullshit 6-disc box set when they fucking come out with it, because that's what I do. And that's it. So that's my pick, Born Again.
I'm glad that was short.
4-3. All right.
Yeah,
Four
that's
to
different
three.
that Gillan didn't like being in Sabbath, but you just
Yeah.
That's not what he told me. And I read the other day, it was on Wikipedia where he said, I take that back. On Wikipedia, it said that he didn't like his time in Sabbath because Geezer and Tony made him and Bev Bevan felt like hired hands. And I'm like, well, that's not what he told me. I'm sure Martin has interviewed Ian as well.
Yeah.
And if there was hard feelings there, why would both Bev Bevan and Ian Gillan work with Tony Iommi again in the future? I mean, I've always said, working with Tony Iommi has got to be like crack cocaine, because everybody that's ever done anything has always gone back to work with him again later on.
I mean, Bevan told me himself like a couple months ago that him and Tony are like best friends. They talk every day. So
yeah,
you had Bev on the channel.
Yeah.
And Ian did a ton of stuff with Tony. One other cool thing, remember this, Chris, Ian set up a circus tent on the grounds of the manor. He didn't want to stay in the manor. He had sleeping arrangements there and cooking and all that kind of stuff. And I think they did a lot of the old, blowing things up as practical jokes during the making of the record and stuff. So they definitely had a lot of fun making the record. And obviously, you've heard there was a lot of drinking too. So
right. I mean, like I said, he said he loved it. So I think had the Deep Purple reunion not happened, maybe he would have stuck around.
Sure, I bet he would have.
No disrespect to Glenn Hughes, but I'm with Chris on that. That would have been a.
And I mean, I love the 7-star record, but that's a very different record.
Oh yeah,
Ryan, don't you talk bad about Glenn Hughes?
I was just gonna
I like
say,
that album too, but it's
Tread lightly, motherfucker.
I was just thinking that, Butch.
We talked a lot about this design, the cover of Black Sabbath Born Again. There was a big controversy with this T-shirt when they were selling this, and it brought out like the Bible Belt, and there was a lot of people were like really upset over that.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back, all the 2020s and all the PM magazine, when they did all their anti-heavy metal campaign in the early 80s, like the two records that always seemed to get pulled out, number one was always Number of the Beast, and number two always seemed to be Born Again.
Yep.
When the parents were holding up records that you should confiscate from your young teenagers because it's going to warp their minds and turn them into devil worshippers like Lynn. Like, this is not the record to listen to.
But you know
I'm
what?
a
though?
devil
Striper all the
worshiper.
time.
But you figure, was that a product of the time when they were
Yeah.
protesting? Because like you just said, Maiden's 82, this is 83. So
Right.
was it a product of those
Yeah,
albums, the
sure.
big albums of that
Well,
time?
yeah,
you
those
know?
were the big albums at the time. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus the two Aussies showed at the Devil
Yes,
as well.
absolutely. Yeah.
exactly.
Then there was the
yeah.
50 Filthy 15, the PMRC with Tipper
Right.
Gore later
Yeah.
that had
Yeah.
just a grab bag of all kinds of rock and roll, but Venom got on there, Merciful Fate got on there. Yeah.
Oh, good taste.
Priest
they-
with
they had some good
Eat
stuff.
Me
Yeah,
Alive got
Priest
on
was
there.
on there. Yep. Yep.
Me and my devil worshiping.
Let's
right,
see what
Lynn.
Pete picks.
All right. So
Does
it's 4-3.
Pete
Still
goes
in
with his
favor of
heart?
Rainbow.
Come on, Pete. Let's go, Pete.
So first of
Regular
all,
pie.
so I like this album quite a bit. For me, it comes right behind the three Dio albums. Although it's probably tied with Straight Between the Eyes because I really like Straight Between the Eyes a lot. But I think it's a really, really solid album, really good songs. It actually is pretty heavy, but you can hear them moving into less kind of like the gothic metal, whatever the hell you want to call the first three Rainbow albums, into more kind of, music that's got mass appeal. I will say, because we haven't talked a lot about, our opinions on whether we think that these lineups could have ever continued. Let's not forget that Graham Bonnet was a pop singer before he joined Rainbow. So in all likelihood, had, Cozy not left and Graham decided to stick around, there might have never been a Joe Lynn Turner era because
That's what I'm saying.
Graham, that's what he liked to sing. I mean, deep down inside, he was a pop singer, and I think he could have done all that stuff just as well. But then we might not have gotten him on Assault Attack. We might not have gotten Alcatraz. So, probably things happen for a reason, but I think this is a really good album. Some of Richie's best playing on any Rainbow album is on this one, I think. I like it quite a bit. I love this album. I have since the day it came out. Like a couple guys here, I don't mind the murky production. I guess I've gotten used to it over the years. And, back then, it sounded okay to me.
Right.
And I was just like, wow, it's just a really heavy, evil Black Sabbath record. And you guys got to remember, my two favorite bands of all time are Purple and Sabbath. So when this came out, I remember I was absolutely devastated when I found out that Dio and Vinny had left Sabbath. I was devastated. And then like a couple months later, whatever, you hear that Ian Gillan has joined Black Sabbath. And I was like, wait a second. For me, this is like the greatest meeting of two of my favorite bands of all time. So I was all in. I think I agree with Chris. This is one of Ian's best vocal performances on any album. I think arguably for me in rock and Mr. Universe, a couple of those Gillan albums, I think he sounds amazing on. Man, just so many great songs on here. And the second half of the album is so good. I mean, Digital Bitch, Born Again, Hotline, Keep It Warm, very underrated second side of this album. I think, the first half always got all the attention, but I think the second half is great. A lot of guitar solos on here, big bruising, muffled riffs, but I don't care. I love it. I've been listening to this constantly since the day it came out. Saw him on the tour, like we talked about. Love it. Could it have continued? I mean, here's the thing. They all got paid a lot of money to do the Deep Purple reunion. You knew that was going to happen. But in hindsight, I mean, I think after Perfect Strangers and that tour, I mean, House of Blue Light's kind of a mess. The tour was kind of a mess. And then, you look what happened shortly thereafter that. Then, Ian's out and Joe's in, and then Joe's out, Ian's back in again. For me, I almost wonder, could they have put off the Purple reunion another 2 years to do another one of these? And I think I would have loved to have seen it.
Well, to me, that whole thing, and we could do a whole video on that, but Pete, I completely agree, because that Purple reunion seems like such a terrible timing, because right, Ian Gillan was doing really well with Sabbath, and Richie and Roger were doing great with Joe Lynn Turner.
Rainbow was on the rise, right? Yeah, hell yeah.
So I mean, they had to cut. Both bands had to cut their tours short to do that reunion. So yeah, it's
It
very
was all
strange.
about the money. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Butch. It was all about the money. I mean, they got a lot of cash.
It's fucking purple money, not rainbow money.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, that's
Rainbow
true.
was still not selling many records. This is the first Sabbath album not ever to get certified, too, right? So, you know,
That's true.
these guys may be playing pretty big concerts, but they're kind of spending a lot of money to do all this too. So they're not bringing a lot in.
Right.
It just looks so obvious. I mean, and a, you know, a Mark II reunion is
It's
money
fucking
in the
purple
bank.
money.
And it did great. If that went platinum, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was another huge hit for those guys.
Yeah. So 4-4 tie. What do you
Oh
know?
shit! Really?
Nobody loses.
Oh god
Yeah,
damn it!
the viewers are going to have to be the tiebreakers.
Yeah.
There you go.
Wow.
Everybody
There
watch.
you
Thank
go.
you, Steve. So yeah, so everybody watching. So in the comments below, cast your vote for Down to Earth or Black Sabbath, Born Again. And remember, there's no real right or wrong answer here. It all depends. on
There's no right or wrong, but yeah, it's really, you know, it's
It's
really.
like Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
There's
Sorry, Martin.
15 versions of the same album.
So apparently we're going to get a remix of this at some point, right? I guess
Yep,
they
that's-
found the
That's what we've heard
Well,
in recent months. The original tapes were allegedly found. I'm sure there's probably a wealth of bonus material that we could get, but we will get next to nothing.
yeah.
Who's
You get basically
remixing
everything
it?
that's on
Maybe we'll
here.
get a
just
video
remix.
of the go-kart racing.
Wait,
Yeah.
Chris, do you know who's remixing it?
There's been no announcements yet about anything.
Really?
Um,
You are.
Other than that, the original tapes were at long lost found. But if these big box sets have taught us anything, it's that there's a ton of good leftover bonus material, but somebody in the Black Sabbath camp doesn't want to put them out on disc. So
If you get Andy Sneap to remix it, it will sound phenomenal.
I'm sold. I mean, listen, I have to buy it no matter who remixes it. If Lynn gets hired to remix
Lynn.
it, I still have to buy it. So
I might get hired.
You
never
might be
know.
remixing it, Lynn.
Ryan,
might-
This is really the first time that an actual remix is a really exciting idea, right? Well, not the first
Yeah.
time, but I mean, this is a
Yeah.
time when it can make a massive difference, right?
well, I was going to say,
Oh.
Martin, you would know better than anybody. Is there another
Oh.
album where another metal album where the production has been so debated over?
I got one. I got one for you.
Justice for all.
I
Yeah.
love
All right,
that.
that's a good one. That is a very good one.
I'll tell you one that I think, honestly, I'm sorry, Martin. And I love this producer. He's beyond legendary. We all love him. But this one album, Back to Rainbow, Long Live Rock and Roll. I would love to understand. I've always thought it had to have been a budget thing because that record sounds and then there's
Old
Gates of
sounds.
Babylon. Gates of Babylon, it sounds like they took all their money. Let's put it on this one song, and this one song sounds majestic, and the rest of it sounds like it was recorded at Denny's.
Yeah.
I don't know about Dennis.
I thought of one. I needed you to stall there because I couldn't think of one.
Good.
But I've definitely got one. Defenders of the Faith.
Ooh.
Well, you got to get rid of the electronic drums.
Well,
Yeah, the drums
whatever.
are the biggest
Strip
thing
strip
about
it down, change it. You're right. Replace it with Scott Travis or something.
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Oh, I love me some
Or Les
Scott
Binks.
Travis.
Things back. Less
Martin,
swap.
don't give him any ideas. I don't want to have to rebuy everything.
please.
Which
I'd like
Are
to
you
tell
kidding
you-
me, Chris? You love it.
I'm
I
down
just-
with Scott
I just-
Travis.
listen,
I'm down with
I don't-
Scott Travis.
I rebought 7 Maiden albums and 3 Misfits records this weekend. Of course, I already had multiple copies of all of
The
them.
curse is real.
Oh, it's
folks.
terrible. It's
You're
terrible.
insane.
Is
They're
real.
gonna
Chris
remix
and
it
I
all.
really don't think there's a bunch of bonus material. I mean, there is that song "The Fallen," but I've never heard anybody talk about anything else.
Right. I mean, on here, they have the demos for the 9 tracks, and I mean, there's tons of live material that they could put, but we'll get a little something.
I think there is one other song, right? What is the? I think there's two. There's 2 finished
Yeah.
songs.
I was gonna say, just the Fallen was the only one that I ever.
Maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
And I remember when this came out is around the time of Gillan's In, and I remember asking Ian Gillan, I was like, "The Fallen, is that real?" And he was like, "Oh yeah." And I was like, "That is such a great track." I'm
How do you
like,
leave that off of that
"How
album?
did
Go
that
listen
get
to that
left off?"
solo. Go listen to Tony's solo on there. I
mean,
swear to
you
God,
know.
one of the greatest ever he ever did.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a great number. Like, how did that get left off?
No clue.
Yeah.
No clue. All right, everybody, there you have it. So cast your vote below. Is it Born Again? Or is it Down to Earth? We'll be doing more of these type shows in the future, so stay tuned for that. And let's see, Martin, what's going on the various podcasts and YouTube things and books and all that kind of stuff?
Boy, I don't know. Marco and I are going to do next week. We're going to do for the Contrarians. We're going to do 2 regular shows where I'll pick my favorite Motorhead album and pick my favorite Gillan album.
Wow,
And they're both a little contrarian choices. So I had to think hard today of who else can we do a regular show on. So that's what we're going to do there. And I'm still waiting. I'll eventually get the reprint of the Merciful Fate and the Van Halen back in next week. And then very soon after, the Yes visual biography and Nazareth visual biography.
Is the Van Halen book, what era is it? Or is it
It's
all?
called Unchained, the Van Halen Muser Manual, and it's just a whole bunch of crazy chapters on all eras. It goes right up to the end. There's a bit of a long story. I don't know if you know that FAQ story, but FAQ series. I did a Black Sabbath one, which was a lot of fun, and that's a cool book. It's 140,000 words. But anyways, it's just weird chapters, almost like if you take a bunch of Pete's shows together all on one band with all the different themes and lined up 20 chapters, you'd get that Van Halen book. So it's a weird one. Yeah.
Cool.
I like Edward.
There you go. Sydney, what's going on over at Metal from the Inside?
Yeah, so Friday I posted my most recent episode. I had Miles Kennedy on, which was really cool. He's super awesome. Go check that out if you haven't seen it. But I'm really excited for the episode that's coming up this week. I had the chance to sit down and speak with Randy Rhoads' brother and sister, which was really amazing to get to talk to them all about Randy. And it was just really special to me because Randy's my favorite guitar player of all time. So to get to sit down and speak with them and, for an hour, and we talked all things Randy from, childhood to, up until he passed, and a lot of kind of stuff that a lot of people didn't really know about. So that's coming this Friday, and it's going to be on YouTube as well because we did a Zoom interview. So that's going to be really cool. So yeah.
Did you ask Kelly why Sharon Osbourne will let any of the video of every single show that they actually recorded that Randy played? Did you ask him why they won't release it?
Which, it's funny, and you'll see, when it's up, but, I did ask them about any footage, and it's a question that they get quite often. And according to them, they have no knowledge of any other footage out there. They don't know of anything else. And so, they're like, if it comes up, that'd be fantastic. But they have never seen any other footage of him other than.
I know Tommy, I'm sure probably Martin can back me up on this. I know Tommy Aldrich has been on the record saying that every single show that he played with Randy Rhoads with Ozzy was recorded.
Hello, you don't think his family was paid off to shut up?
Well, I don't know if they
good.
shut up, but
I'm not going there. I'm just saying that's
I'll
what
go
they
there.
said, that they
I'll
didn't
go there.
have any knowledge.
I don't care.
it's just you would think that just going from what you're saying, and it could be absolutely true, but if it is true what Aldrich has said for all these years that all those shows were recorded, why wouldn't you release them and make the money off it? Just like Van Halen.
Oh yeah.
Michael Anthony has said for decades that all those shows were recorded. Can't you just I'll be the first person in fucking line from 78 to 81, just whatever you want. And I've got a shit ton of bootlegs.
You have to look at it sometimes, though, of things might have been recorded, but I guess you don't know how much goes on behind the scenes of that things get lost, that things get destroyed,
Right.
lose track of them, did whatever, did they think it wasn't good enough and scrapped it,
business.
It's a business, but but that's another thing is that I've thought about that many times too, of I really don't know if there's anything there because they would have put it out already if it was.
Well,
that's what I'm saying. It's been 40 years since he passed away.
There was an Ozzy documentary that was out not that long ago, and Ozzy sitting in a chair, and you watch him watching video that I've never seen, and you can see that the timeline, the time stamp on the bottom going through is professionally done. It makes no sense to me.
Then that's what I'm saying. Is you kind of have to ask yourself, but why? If that was the case, why wouldn't they just have put it out?
Yeah,
already?
I don't know.
It's like the Tony Iommi thing all over again, Chris. Right?
Yeah, listen. When the Heaven and Hell reunion happened in 2007, I asked all 4 guys about the Black and Blue movie being re-released, and will we ever see the mythical live footage of Live Evil? And all four guys had different answers. But the bottom line is that was what, 2006? Here we are in 2021.
Yeah.
Nothing, neither ever came out. So no different than the Ozzy footage and the Van Halen footage. I mean, somebody is sitting on something, I'm sure, that could be sold. But, for whatever reason, to Sydney's point, somebody else is deciding it's not worth it. It's not worth the time to clean it up and restoration and pay off all the people that need to be paid off to get it released. And, we'll probably never see it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
I'll just shut up now.
Yeah.
All right, for our Hudson Valley peeps, Lynn, any upcoming music at District Social that you want to let people know
Nope,
about?
just live music every Friday and Saturday night. I'm behind the bar slinging drinks.
Isn't
booking
that what
bands.
he just asked you? He just
People
asked
look-
you
I
what was
don't
going
have,
on
I
at
don't
District
have the
Social,
goddamn
and you said
calendar
no.
right here. It's in a book.
Well,
I
get the
don't know.
calendar on, goddammit. You're on a goddamn show. Be prepared. God
Hold
damn
that.
it.
Just come see me. It doesn't matter who's
There you
playing.
go.
I'm
Peak
there.
in New York, everybody, right next to Industrial Arts Brewery. Very cool place.
That's right. Just come see me. Doesn't
Steve,
matter
Rock
what music.
Fantasy, what's happening over at the store?
Doors open 7 days a week, 12 to 7. It's staying afloat and rocking and rolling. And we got a bunch of sealed vinyl in recently that someone brought in, and we sold a lot of it, but a lot of really old pressings I've been putting up on the Rock Fantasy Instagram feed. If you're looking to buy any sealed vinyl or some old original pressings of
You know what,
metal and-
Steve? Steve, I'm going to put in requests right now. Something that I don't have that I do want.
Yeah.
If you ever get the Thin Lizzy fighting cover of them doing like they're fighting,
Yeah.
not the American release, the European release, the UK release. I have it on CD, but I don't have the vinyl, and I need to have it because I have all the other vinyl of all the different covers.
I will
don't have that.
definitely, you'll be the first one to find out. if we
Keep
get
that
it.
in mind.
And I'm
And it's
interviewing,
Steve.
I'm interviewing Metal Blade recording artist Rivers of Nile tomorrow, which will
Oh,
go up
cool,
on Rock
cool.
Fantasy Files.
Very cool.
And we have an incantation episode, which should come up this week. The guys are still.
Incantation.
Yes.
You trying to cast a spell on us?
Incantation. John McAtee was a big part of the Rock Fantasy Files and been a guest with Pete Pardo quite a few times. And we're going to try to bring the Rock Fantasy Files back for some more. Now that the fall's coming in and the end of summer, we're going to start doing some more shows on my channel. And it's all been fun. And I think we're going to need something to do this fall to keep our minds occupied. So,
Oh, there you go. And
Yeah.
Steve, just so you know, they both told me offline, but Chris wants you to order him a copy of Rumors on LP, and Sydney wants a copy
Absolutely.
of Hemispheres. So
wait a minute, but Chris Allen needs other homework too. Chris Allen has never owned a Night of the Opera either. So.
No, I've never owned any
So
Queen
let's
records.
we can go off to, it's more of a metal hard rock album. He really needs that one too.
Sydney, I'll tell you what, Sydney does need to have Hemispheres though.
Oh yes.
Great
Yes,
album.
That's just
yeah,
tremendous.
no comment. No comment.
I mean, I don't hate Rush. I just don't gravitate towards that.
Steve, order her.
One day it'll
Order
just-
it for it, Steve. Order
Maybe
it.
one day that light switch will just turn on and you'll go, wow.
She just said, I
and
don't
hey,
hate Rush.
It very well may. I don't know. I try every once in a while. Like to be completely honest, I'll put on. I mean, there's some songs I don't mind. Like I can listen to like Limelight and stuff like that, and I'm okay. But like,
So just so
I
everybody knows,
Marcetta.
so Sydney and Bryce from Bryce Talks Metal are going to be doing an episode of Album Homework Assignment coming up soon. Part of me was thinking, it's like, well, maybe Bryce will give her a curveball and assign her a Rush album, but he doesn't like Rush either. So
wow, that's funny. He doesn't.
no.
Oh, that's
Give her-
funny.
You got to make her have Caress of Steel.
Damn. So
Great
I
album.
should be the one that pulls that. Then thanks for letting me know. Because
Lord.
I want to hear Sydney's thoughts on the Necromancer.
I think I have that one next to me, actually.
There you go, Chris. All
There
right.
you go.
Great
He's
album.
like, I don't understand what's going on.
I don't. I don't have a
Dancing
plethora
on
of
this Halloween
knowledge.
album because I'm
And everybody, please make sure you go check out the Butcher Shop on Facebook, right? Butch is manning that over there. We got what, 3,000 members over there, I think. So.
Yeah, up to 3,100 now.
Cool.
Yep.
Just go talk hard rock and metal. It's what it's all about. And Chris and I will be doing the Monsters Den Thursday night.
Talking about Camp Blood, boobs and blood on the
Who doesn't
Monsters
love
Den.
that?
Oh, shut
Only
up.
thing we're
Lynn.
missing is Satan and sandwiches.
Seriously.
And let's see, and Ryan Scow, what do we got? What do we got coming up? We've got
Wait
a
a
show
minute.
we're working on about Sodom. We're gonna do a
Oh, yeah.
Sodom album ranking coming up
Wow.
sometime in the next couple weeks.
When did Ryan, when did you lose your vest? When did you lose the Halford vest? I just realized that.
We just
Oh,
did
yeah.
too. Wow.
My dog's getting poked with the little spike. I put the,
Oh.
the dog to come up.
I've been wanting to say something about it. I look, I'm like, wait a minute, it's gone. Where did the vest go?
That
Yeah, I
is
don't want the
funny. I
dog
didn't
to
notice
poke
that.
He's undressing right before your very eyes.
They can shut the cameras off now, please.
All right, everybody, that's a wrap. So remember, vote for Born Again or Down to Earth down below. Like I said, we'll do another one of these in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. For Lynn
Get it right.
and Martin and Ryan and Butch and Sydney and Steve and Chris, I am Pete Pardo. Good night, everybody. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.